welcome back to the Doctor Who Marathon. I'm your host McEdam, and today we're going to be talking about the K9 episode Custodians, written by Sydney Armstrong and S.P. Klaus, and is directed by James Bogle. This story deals with the concept of a global mind control and has the idea of dumbing down children with virtual games, and it's a science fiction topic which has been told in many franchises, in many stories. I can't actually name any from the top of my head, but you've heard the idea before, a global game franchise. Spy Kids 3. It's Spy Kids 3. Oh my god, it's Spy Kids 3. That's just... It's only now clicking as I'm recording this. This episode is a remake of Spy Kids 3. That's just Spy Kids 3 out of everything. Yeah, it's a scientific trope, a sci-fi trope that has been used in many franchises before, and now I guess it's time for K9's turn for a game being in the mind control device for taking over the kids. And basically the moral of the story is video games make you dumb. Stop playing video games, in a sense. Not really, because the whole idea with K9 and the department kind of disembodies that, and I think the message of this story is up in the air and it's confusing as hell. But the start of the episode, right off the bat, criticisms. The first thing we see is Georgie. She's about to start playing this game, a virtual reality simulator where you get this toy. It's called Little Green Men, and it's like a headphones device, but with like hands, claws on it, and she puts it on and she instantly gets mind controlled. We also learn that the department are trying to keep up with this epidemic, sort of this illness that is taking children, and they seem to all also take part in this virtual reality game, which is run by the department. Why would Georgie, somebody who is right off the bat, like somebody who hates the department, I guess maybe the public knowledge of it isn't, but surely they couldn't hide the fact that so many children are getting ill and being, having mental issues with the game. Why would Georgie, of all people, take it? Was she trying to be like, right, let's see what this is about? We also see Darius also being affected in the story as well. And it just doesn't feel... Darius, that kind of works. It does kind of feel like his character, that he would, rather slouch off and play video games rather than, try to help the world or try to help Griffiths or anything. Georgie doesn't seem like that kind of character, and I feel like her being mind controlled and her being it is just a big excuse to get her out of the picture, and also get her mother as essentially she is the main protagonist in this story. It's Georgie's mother who is essentially the main character here. And the more I talk and the more I realise there's not really much to talk about this episode, because I'm already done essentially with the first act. Starkey is the only kid in the franchise that is essentially free. He's the only one in our crew that is unaffected because he didn't play the game. However, he does tell Griffith and he does tell Georgie's mother about this hip game that all the cool kids are playing, but not him, because Starkey, he is against the norm, and he had no real interest in playing it, whilst K9, of course, a robot dog. And so the story is mainly focused on them trying to just trying to find out what's going on. And it seems like there seems to be some sort of signal that's blocking their memory, some sort of electro pulse that's stopping their brain functions from working, and K9 can't detect anything, and from what he can gather, no life form that he's aware of has such abilities that can go undetected. And so they decide to go to the company that made the Little Green Aliens video game. So Georgie's mother, and Starkey, along with K9, go to essentially the building where they make the game. And there's a lot of, speaking of this story has a unique visual style compared to its other series counterparts. There's a lot of close-ups. At the start of the episode, there's some really good shots of Georgie's face that she puts on the game as the tension starts building up. There's also really weird directing scenes. There's a scene when they're being introduced, and essentially they're like in an advert. Like the colours on them have become sepia tone, as we have this clearly green background as a screen appears, and we meet the custodian, this man called John, who Starkey actually is aware of, and apparently he is somebody who works for the department, specifically the segment of it which creates the virtual prison, which we saw in, I want to say it's, what's that episode called? It's the second episode of the series. And John here is played by Dash Crutch, I believe his name is. What a strange performance. He has that constant grin on his face, and you're not quite sure if he's a robot, if he's a simulation. But the story seems to heavily imply that he is human, but he just constantly has this grin, smile, and talks like this. And don't worry, the game is working function as well, and we will have everything sorted in a meantime. And when Georgie's mother threatens him, he'll lose his job if he doesn't stop smiling, and he just continues to smile. It gives this really eerie presence, this really eerie feel. This story actually reminds me a lot of the Doctor Who episode The Long Game, in which you have the editor who plays a very similar role. And from him, the custodian, as Starkey knows him, which is really strange because the word custodian only gets used in that one scene, and it's never brought up again. Why they decided to call this episode Custodian, no idea. But essentially we learn that he has captured, not captured, there's this alien race that can communicate to people telepathically, and they aren't really a slave race. They actually volunteer to work for bigger evil organizations to make invasion much more easily. As K9 puts it, this race, they could basically put a telepathic message to make people more frightened of their enemies, so that instead of fighting the invading force, they would quickly surrender in fear, and they would essentially hire themselves out. And a group of race was so petrified of their presence that they banded together and destroyed their home planet, basically turning this creature into an extinct race. And so, yeah, there's not really much to talk about because I'm already near the end, essentially. Griffiths realises that on Georgie's skin and Darius, they're starting to turn green, which we learn is the creature basically, it's become lonely, and it's basically teamed up with the department, but it's actually got its own agenda, its own plan on converting humans that it can connect with, thanks to the game, and turn them into its own species, so it's not alone anymore. It's not extinct anymore. And we also learn that this organisation, the Little Green game was actually funded by Thorn, who basically his plan is to hypnotize all the children so they can become essentially like normal, quiet kids, and they'd grow up to become quiet citizens, and they would have like essentially the perfect race of well-obedient citizens. However, when Georgie's mother basically shows him a clip of Georgie in her current state, Thorn tells John to turn it off, stop it, which shows that Thorn actually has a kind of heart. This does kind of seem out of character for him. Previous episodes do kind of imply that he just wouldn't care in this situation. He would rather let children die and suffer than give up his dream of controlling the masses and having a huge political gain on the country. So that's kind of odd. It's kind of strange. But it's not a big issue. I feel like, though it doesn't really make sense much for the character to an extent, you can kind of see it as him having a weak moment, and maybe he has some sort of not caring, but he has this understanding with Georgie's mother that he can see her amount of torment, and it's like, right, we don't get along, but we do have this working relationship, and that's got to count for something. So go on, John, turn the machine off. Only for John to blackmail the department for a certain amount of cash. I can't remember what it was, like 5,000 or something, to turn the alien creature off, essentially, his telepathic circuits off. And the fact that John keeps this sinister grin on constantly, and is kind of this child presenter kind of attitude towards it, is just really, it's really engaging to watch, actually. The performance, Dash's performance, is actually pretty fun. Not particularly great, but it's fun. And to see him just own the room. He sees Georgie's mother, he sees Thorn, and it's just, yeah, I'd hold all the cards. Again, his performance kind of makes him feel like a robot, a hologram, someone less of a living person, but the story never actually implies any of that. So he's just this weirdo who's just found himself in a high authority part of the department, and he just saw an opportunity to blackmail some of the highest members. Like, what was he gonna do with that money? As soon as he takes it down, as soon as he gets his money, they're going to arrest him. It's the department. What was he gonna do with that money? What was his plan? I need to know this. What? It honestly feels like he literally just came up with this plan on the spot. He's just like, he just got really confident, and he's just like, you know what, screw it. I'm gonna blackmail. I'm gonna beg them for money, and if not, their children will not be given back to them. And Thorn originally is like, no, we are not going to give in to blackmail the department. We do not give in to terrorism. But Georgie's mother is begging him, please, just give him the money. I need to save my daughter. Basically revealing that she's got this weak, vulnerable moment in her life. Anytime somebody threatens her daughter, she instantly caves in. Sorry, I don't know what that was. She instantly caves in, and that is like her weakness. I wonder if that ties into a later episode, whether that ties in the finale. But it's a pretty great setup of character here, and doesn't distract from the plot. It feels like this is a natural progression of her character, not only in the series but in this adventure. If you take this out, that plotline still kind of works. And it seems like all hope has failed as Starkey gets mind controlled, Thorne and Georgie's mother get mind controlled as well, so that they can't fire at all. K9 gets zapped by Starkey, who's being mind controlled, and K9 has lost his energy. He cannot do anything, and it seems like the villains have won. This creature has the ability to take over Earth and repopulate it with his own species, and it seems like he's succeeding. Before I continue, I just want to say that costume is absolutely horrible. That's a really cool mask if we saw the face move. The fact that we only see its eyes and the face does not move in any way, shape or form, it comes off looking really cheap. But worst of all is the hands. It's so clear that he's just like holding these two cardboard cactus looking things, and that's it for hands. It looks so cheap, it looks so corny. I absolutely love it. It feels so classic, so phenomenally stupid that you're just like, how would anyone was going to believe that this was an actual alien creature? And it doesn't, like, they actually, it is part of the story that it is an alien creature, so yeah, but it feels like something like the 1970s Doctor Who would do, not 2010 Doctor Who spin-off. Really strange, really bizarre, and the fact that they did it and they tried to get away with it and just absolutely failed. It's kind of a testament really to the creative endeavours on the series. But anyway, Georgie's mother, with the little amount of control that she has, essentially, it's like, right, you miss your family, you want to regain a family, your own world. You lost your world, you want to regain it. I understand that. Let me show you my world. And she shows him clips of Georgie, and it's like, this is my daughter, please don't harm her, please help her. And then we get a scene in which essentially you can see him thinking about it, and he lets all the children free and lets them all free from his mind control. And we get a scene of just them looking at each other, and Georgie's mother's crying and she's crying with joy, and this character's just kind of looking at her. And it plays out for quite a long time for a scene like this. And I really enjoyed that. I just like the fact that, it's a lot more slow paced than you usually get, and it allows this time for this emotional beat to hit. It really works. And then the creature just sort of dies, and its energy life force just escapes, and we just take it that that's how this species dies. What happened to its life force? Where does it go? Does it just go into the sun and burn to death? Does it go into the atmosphere? Does it take over another body? What goes on with... What is that? What was that came out of his dead body? And the story kind of just ends abruptly with Georgie's mother looking at her through the video camera, and Georgie's just like, I'm fine. And then the credits just roll. Doot, 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 doot. And that's The Custodian. Overall, like every other episode in the K9 series, it's rushed, it's poorly paced, it's got some terrible acting, terrible performances, terrible look, just overall the series itself is just not very well executed. I feel like though it's not all good, though there is a lot to hate about, not hate about it, but a lot to criticise about it. There are some moments that are worthwhile, like that scene at the end with Georgie's mother and the alien gaining this kind of connection over family. But most of the plot is kind of generic and fails to live up to any expectations if you had any going into this. So it's probably a one to skip if you're even interested in watching the show. Only watch it if you're a completionist, like this loser over here. So yeah, that's The Custodian. So join me next time where the Doctor sends Amy, Rory and River Song on a mission as he takes them to Utah, and we face one of the biggest, one of the deadliest villains that the Doctor can't remember. And silence will fall. So join me next time for The Impossible Astronaut and the Day of the Moon. And I'll see you next time on the Doctor Who Marathon as we kickstart Series 6 of the revived era of Doctor Who. So see you next time on the Doctor Who Marathon. Ta-ra!